There are 12 Machiavellian laws that control your life, whether you are aware of them or not. Most men move through the world thinking that respect is earned through generosity, openness, and emotional availability. They believe that being understood is the path to acceptance, and that acceptance is the path to safety. This is a lie that has been repeated so many times that it has become instinct. The first law, the one that shapes all power dynamics at their foundation, is simple. People respect what you withhold, not what you give freely. The moment something is easily accessed, easily understood, or easily taken from you, it loses its value, and so do you. Human nature is wired towards scarcity. We desire what is limited, what is distant, what feels just beyond reach. When you overgive, overshare, or over-explain, you are not being kind. You are teaching others that your presence requires no cost. Observe how people treat what they have to work for. They guard it, protect it, speak of it with pride, and fear losing it. Now observe how they treat what is given to them without effort. It is taken for granted, expected, forgotten, or discarded. The lover who is always available is ignored. The friend who always listens becomes the emotional dumping ground. The employee who always says yes is the one whose workload grows without compensation. When you give too much of yourself, you are not showing virtue. You are announcing that your time, your attention, and your energy are not worth fighting for. The tragedy is not that others take advantage. The tragedy is that you taught them to. Those who are respected are those whose presence feels measured, deliberate, and selective. You must learn to ration your attention the way one rations gold, because in a psychological sense, that is exactly what it is. Withholding is not cruelty. It is discipline. It is understanding that your inner world is not a public well that anyone may drink from. It is knowing that intimacy must be earned, not granted by default. A man who speaks rarely is heard when he speaks. A man who gives sparingly is cherished when he gives. A man who is seen less is remembered more deeply. To withhold is to signal worth. This is not about manipulation. It is about understanding the fundamental mechanics of human valuation. When you withhold, you are not creating distance, you are creating gravity. Others orbit what they cannot fully grasp. They lean in, they wonder, they pursue, and in pursuit they reveal themselves. Meanwhile, you remain still, unshaken, untouched by their urgency. You do not chase, you allow yourself to be pursued. This is how respect forms, not through effort, but through presence controlled with precision. But power is not only stored in what you keep hidden, it is reinforced by what you choose to reveal. This leads to the second law. Never show your full strength, only enough to warn. The world has a strange relationship with power. People do not fear the punch already thrown. They fear the punch that could have been thrown but wasn't. They respect the power that is implied, restrained, held in quiet readiness. When you reveal the full extent of your ability, people stop imagining how far it could go. They stop wondering. They stop fearing. You turn yourself into something measurable, and what is measurable can be challenged, compared, surpassed. The strongest force in power dynamics is not dominance. It is unpredictability. It is the sense that there is more beneath the surface than what is currently being shown. When you only show enough strength to hint at what you are capable of, others begin to calculate around you. They hesitate to provoke you. They speak more carefully. They watch your reactions. They respect not what they have seen, but what they have not. This is the strategy of kings, generals, and those who understand command. Consider the fighter who never reveals the full sharpness of his skill in training, only enough to establish caution. Consider the leader who speaks softly, but with words that seem to contain hidden depths. Consider the person whose silence in conflict creates more unease than shouting ever could. A full display of power invites resistance. A partial display invites uncertainty, and uncertainty is the silent architect of control. To master this law, you must become comfortable with holding back when your ego wants to prove itself. You must learn to walk away when others expect a reaction. You must be able to see the long game clearly enough to ignore the temptations of immediate victory. True power is not proven, it is suggested. The less you show, the more they imagine. The more they imagine, the more they fear. And the more they fear, the more carefully they treat you. Control is not taken, it is given to the one who appears already in possession of it. The world is ruled by those who can afford to remain unreadable. What comes next is the battlefield of emotion, and only those who control desire control loyalty. Power over others is not held in the obvious actions they can see. but in the emotional ground, they do not realize you are shaping beneath their feet. Law 3 is the silent core of influence. Control emotional distance. The one who cares less controls the bond. Every relationship, whether romantic, social, or strategic, contains an invisible scale of investment. One side gives more, one side gives less. One waits, wonders, fears, hopes, the other decides. The tragedy is that most people give themselves away too quickly, confusing attachment with loyalty and vulnerability with intimacy. They speak first, confess first, fear first, and the moment they do, they surrender ground. Emotional distance is not coldness, it is placement. It is knowing exactly how close to stand so that your presence is felt, but never guaranteed. People are drawn to what they cannot completely hold. They chase what is withdrawing. They cling to what is slipping. Your task is to master the art of being slightly out of reach, enough to be desired, never enough to be possessed. You do not announce that you care less. You demonstrate it by where you place your attention. If someone demands your time, you respond slower. If they attempt to provoke emotion, you react with stillness. If they seek to define the relationship, you return the question to them. Your silence becomes the language they learn to interpret. When you show restraint, they feel uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds value. They begin to think of you when you are absent. They replay your words. They study your expressions. They attempt to understand you because something in you remains unclaimed. And in their search for clarity, they reveal their hand. They show how much they need you. They expose their insecurities, their desires, their patterns. Emotional control is not about pretending not to feel. It is about choosing when to express and when to withhold. To care is human. To show care selectively is power. Most men believe that loyalty is built through closeness, through constant presence, constant communication, constant reassurance. But loyalty is not built through access. It is built through significance. When your attention must be earned, its arrival feels like victory. When your presence is selective, its appearance feels like privilege. People value what they fear losing, and people fear losing what they never fully possess. The moment they are certain of you, the dynamic dies. The moment your emotions are predictable, the bond is no longer balanced. The one who cares less does not love less. He loves with discipline. He loves without surrendering his selfhood. He loves without collapsing into dependency. This is the difference between attachment and command. One drowns, the other navigates the waters while remaining dry. And just as emotional distance creates value, so too does the illusion of warmth create openings for advantage. This brings us to Law 4. Appear friendly, but never trust warm smiles. The world mistakes friendliness for sincerity, but the two rarely align. Warmth is a tool, a costume worn to soften defenses and disarm suspicion. People smile to be liked, to be accepted, to be underestimated, to be invisible in their intentions. A smile can hide envy. A compliment can mask rivalry. A show of solidarity can disguise strategic positioning. To survive in any arena of influence, you must learn to separate gesture from motive. Trust only patterns. Trust only consistency. Do not become cynical, become observant. The greatest mistakes in judgment are made not because someone deceived you, but because you wanted to believe them. Appearing friendly is necessary. Hostility pushes others away before you can learn from them, use them, or understand their leverage points. Friendliness allows proximity, but proximity is only valuable if you maintain internal distance. This means listening without confiding first, offering help without exposing need, acknowledging others without elevating them in your emotional hierarchy. Warmth is a tactical surface, not a confession of allegiance. Those who believe every smile is genuine become pawns in other people's stories. Those who believe every friendly gesture is a transaction become manipulators without realizing they are still being manipulated. The balance is to act pleasant while remaining unreadable. You speak kindly but never reveal intention. You show generosity but never reveal dependency. You let others feel close to you while ensuring they are never close enough to strike. To appear harmless is to remove threat perception. To remove threat perception is to move without friction. And yet, once in a while, masks slip. Motives reveal themselves. Someone will test your boundaries, disrespect your value, or attempt to undermine your position. It is here that the next law rises like a blade from the dark. What comes next is not about distance or warmth, but about consequences. Because there is a moment in every power struggle when restraint must end. and clarity must begin. Power does not survive on patience alone. Eventually, someone will test the limits of your restraint, assuming your silence is softness and your calm is submission. Law 5 is the turning point where distance becomes definition. Punish once and punish decisively. A punishment is not merely a reaction to offense, it is a message to every witness, spoken or unspoken, about the consequences of crossing you. To correct someone gradually is to teach them that your boundaries bend. To give multiple warnings is to imply that you are negotiating your dignity. People do not learn from mild correction, they learn from unmistakable impact. When someone disrespects you, they are calculating your response. If that response is weak, ambiguous, or delayed, they conclude that they can continue without consequence. And once they conclude that, regaining authority becomes nearly impossible. A decisive punishment must be clear, memorable, and final. Not a spectacle, but a demonstration. It must show that you are not to be provoked twice. To punish once is to ensure there is no need to punish again. Consider how predators maintain territory. They do not roar endlessly. They strike once, with precision, and the memory of that strike echoes longer than any threat could. A leader who corrects behavior through subtle reminders and emotional explanations is simply teaching others how to wear him down. A leader who delivers a single sharp consequence sets a boundary that is felt. The key is to remove personal emotion from the act. A punishment driven by rage is sloppy, impulsive, and easily criticized. A punishment delivered with calm is terrifying. It shows that the action is not about spite, it is about law. You do not shout, you do not justify, you do not argue, you enact the consequence and then you return to silence. Your silence is what tells the world that the matter is no longer up for debate. People fear what they cannot negotiate with, they respect what they cannot sway, and above all, they remember the sting of being wrong about you. But understand this clearly, a decisive punishment is final. You do not punish, then reconcile. You do not punish, then apologize. You do not punish, then explain. To do so would undo the entire effect. A punishment is not a conversation, it is a conclusion. When you act decisively, you are not trying to change the offender, you are establishing the price of disrespect. If others learn that price, you rarely have to enforce it again. Those who punish repeatedly are simply signaling that their punishments are too weak to matter. Those who punish inconsistently are signaling that their emotions control them, not their principles. A decisive punishment is based on a standard that does not move. When someone crosses the line, you end the discussion permanently. The world quietly reorganizes itself around those who cannot be tested twice. This brings us to the next law, which shapes not how you act in conflict, but how you prevent conflicts from arising in the first place. Law 6. Never argue. Influence through silence and presence. Arguments are the currency of the powerless. To argue is to attempt to prove your worth to someone who has not granted it. The moment you raise your voice, defend your character, or explain your motive to someone who has already chosen their interpretation of you, you are already losing. People do not listen to arguments to understand. They listen to arguments to confirm the beliefs they already hold. The harder you try to explain yourself, the more desperate you appear, and desperation is death to authority. The strongest men do not win through debate. They win by being the one whose silence others cannot ignore. Silence is not absence, it is pressure. It forces others to fill the space with their own assumptions, their own insecurities, their own fear of being wrong. Presence is not about being loud, it is about being undeniable. When you do not argue, you force the other person to confront the emptiness of their reasoning. When you do not react emotionally, you reveal how much the situation matters to them and how little it matters to you. And the one who cares less, once again, controls the bond. Silence allows your enemies to expose themselves. They will talk more, reveal more, justify more, ask more, chase more. You observe, you gather information, you learn their patterns, their motives, their weaknesses. Arguments waste energy, silence stores it, presence directs it. A man who can influence a room without speaking is a man who has crossed the threshold from defending authority to embodying it. To master this law, you must become comfortable letting others misunderstand you. Let them misinterpret your intentions. Let them question your loyalty. Let them underestimate your capacity. Their projections do not change your position. They reveal it. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be recognized. A man who needs to be understood seeks validation. A man who does not need to explain himself has already accepted the cost of walking his own path. And that is why others follow him. They feel his gravity, even in silence. They shape their tone in his presence. They measure their words. They adjust themselves without realizing they are doing so. That is power without force. That is command without exertion. And now we move toward the law that determines how your influence travels when you are no longer even in the room. Power extends beyond the moment. Influence means nothing if it disappears when you are not present. Law 7 is the architecture of enduring authority. Build a reputation that works while you sleep. A reputation is a shadow that precedes you, a whisper that enters rooms before your footsteps arrive. It determines how others speak of you when you are not there to correct them. Weak men attempt to control respect through constant involvement, always explaining themselves, always negotiating, always performing. But power is not earned through motion, it is earned through consistency. Your reputation is not who you are in your strongest moments, but who you are repeatedly. It is formed through patterns others can observe, through traits that cannot be faked under stress. A man may pretend to be confident for a day. He may disguise cowardice in noise and bravado. But when pressure builds, when outcomes matter, when risk sharpens the air, the truth of his character shows. Your reputation is built precisely in these moments, when your reaction is seen. To construct a reputation that endures, you must choose the qualities you wish to be known for, and then live them without contradiction. If you want to be respected, you must speak with calm when others panic. If you want to be taken seriously, you must act sparingly, only when action is necessary. If you want to be seen as powerful, you must remain unmoved when others seek your reaction. People remember how you behaved when the room watched you, but they remember even more how you behaved when you thought no one was watching, because someone always is. Reputations are not declared, they are discovered. The world assembles the conclusions on its own. The less you explain yourself, the stronger the conclusions become. If you must tell others who you are, you have already failed. A reputation is never built through words, it is built through absence. You are not respected because you demand respect. You are respected because others have learned what happens when they do not give it. Once reputation is established, it does the work for you. Doors open without effort. Challenges shrink before they reach you. People adjust their tone when speaking to you. You do not need to warn others of your capability. Your reputation has already delivered the message. But understand this clearly. Reputation is a weapon with a double edge. If you live carelessly, if you betray your own standards even once for convenience, the shadow fractures. And once a reputation breaks, it is nearly impossible to restore. This is why discipline is the backbone of all influence. The world watches not when you are triumphant, but when you are tempted. A reputation is proof that you have mastered yourself. Only then can you shape how others perceive you. At this point, the conversation shifts from perception to decision, which brings us to Law 8, always choose advantage over morality. Most people are trained to believe morality is a universal law that stands above personal interest. But morality is not universal. It is cultural, it is situational. It is applied when convenient and ignored when inconvenient. And it is almost always enforced by those who benefit from your compliance. Morality is how the powerless are taught to police themselves. It is a structure that rewards obedience and punishes independent judgment. If you move through life trying to do what is right by external standards, you will find yourself trapped in the expectations of others. You will sacrifice opportunity for approval. You will hesitate when decisiveness is required. You will cripple your potential in exchange for validation from those who have no intention of granting it. Choosing advantage over morality does not mean acting cruelly. It means thinking strategically. It means recognizing that every situation has a cost and a reward, and your task is to evaluate them, not to morally justify them. A moral choice that weakens you is not virtuous, it is naive. A strategic choice that strengthens your position is not immoral, it is intelligent. The world does not remember the man who followed the rules. It remembers the man who rewrote them. To choose advantage is to ask one question: what outcome strengthens my position? If helping someone strengthens your position, it is wise. If withholding strengthens your position, it is wise. If walking away strengthens your position, it is wise. Morality is reactive, strategy is selective. Most men struggle with this law because they believe that choosing advantage means becoming heartless. But emotions are not the enemy. attachment is. You may care deeply, but you must never let care determine your course. You must weigh every decision with clarity, not sentiment. When morality is used to shame you, step back. Ask who benefits from your compliance. If the answer is not you, then the morality being pushed is not a principle, it is a chain. Power belongs to those who choose their actions based on consequence, not approval. And those who act from strategy rather than emotion are the ones others eventually call wise, even if they resented them when decisions were made. The world rewards those who act with clarity, those who know what they are willing to do, and just as importantly, what they are willing to refuse. A man who chooses advantage is not ruthless. He is simply unwilling to sacrifice his future for temporary peace. And because of that, the world eventually bends around him. What comes next is not about perception or discipline, but about belief, because the next law shapes how others see your power, whether you possess it or not. Power does not require proof. It requires belief. Law 9. Power comes from those who believe you have it. Most men misunderstand power as something you do, actions, displays, victories. But power is not demonstrated through movement, it is maintained through perception. People follow those they assume others follow. They respect those they assume others respect. Influence spreads not from force, but from the quiet consensus of those who whisper your name with caution. If others believe you are powerful, they treat you as powerful, and in doing so, they make it real. This is why the strongest men are never the loudest. They do not announce. They do not convince. They allow the minds of others to do the work for them. Your task is not to prove your strength, but to be seen as someone who never needs to prove it. You do not attempt to dominate rooms. You enter them as if you already own something in them. The air, the attention, the unseen narrative. Your demeanor must reflect the assumption of power, not the pursuit of it. When you speak, your tone must be slow, measured, and unforced, as if time itself has learned to accommodate you. When you move, it must be with intention, never urgency. Urgency signals fear, stillness signals control, and control is what people recognize as power, long before they understand why. People watch your reactions more than your actions. If you remain unshaken where others flinch, if you remain calm where others panic, if you remain quiet where others shout, they conclude you know something they do not. And that conclusion is where belief begins, and belief is where power originates. The most effective leaders do not command loyalty. Others choose loyalty because it feels safer to align with them than to oppose them. But safety is not created by kindness or reassurance. It is created by inevitability. You must become the one others calculate around, the one whose presence must be considered, the one whose displeasure carries consequences that are unspoken yet understood. Once people begin adjusting themselves in your presence, you have already won. They are no longer reacting to the world, they are reacting to you, and that is power in its purest form, invisible, assumed, self-perpetuating. The moment you realize that power only needs to be believed to exist, you stop chasing outcomes and start shaping atmospheres. You stop trying to prove yourself and begin observing who seeks your approval without you asking, and that reveals everything. But as your presence strengthens, as your influence grows, as others begin to orbit your gravity, a danger arises, not from enemies, but from yourself. Which brings us into Law 10. Weak men break themselves trying to be loved. The desire to be admired, understood, included, and validated is the hook that destroys most men who rise. They begin with discipline, clarity, and self-possession, but once they taste attention, they crave more. Once they are respected, they desire affection. Once they are followed, they want to be adored. And in this craving, they soften. They give more than they should. They reveal too much. They become accessible, predictable, familiar. And familiarity is where respect dies. To be loved is to be known. To be known is to be interpreted. And once you are interpreted, you are no longer larger than life. You are merely human. A man who needs to be loved becomes afraid of disappointing others. He becomes afraid of disapproval. He begins adjusting himself to maintain emotional comfort in those around him. His edges dull, his presence weakens, his influence dissolves. And worst of all, he becomes dependent on the very people who once depended on him. Love, when sought, is chains. Love, when offered freely to the strong, is tribute. The difference is in who desires whom. You must understand something brutal but necessary. Admiration is stronger than affection. Reverence is stronger than closeness. Respect sustains influence. Love consumes it. You do not need to avoid love. You must avoid needing it. You must remain able to walk away from any affection that demands your self-abandonment. You must be able to remain unshaken when you are misunderstood, misjudged, or unloved. The strong man allows others to love him, but he does not cling to their love. He does not negotiate his identity to preserve it. He does not perform softness to ensure it. He does not fear losing it. For if love is lost when you remain yourself, it was not love, it was dependency disguised as devotion. The world will test you with affection far more cunningly than it tests you with conflict. Enemies sharpen your strength. Admiration softens it, if you let it. Many men rise in power, but few remain powerful, because the moment they are praised, they surrender themselves to the comfort of being wanted. They forget the laws that built them. They forget the distance that protected them. They forget the silence that commanded attention. They forget that power is not maintained by being loved, but by being remembered, and only those who stand apart are remembered. To carry power, you must choose solitude over approval, clarity over comfort, and presence over performance. You must remain a figure others reach toward, not a companion they lean on. For the man who becomes addicted to being loved soon becomes controlled by those whose love he fears losing. And when that happens, he is no longer a man of influence, he is a servant of emotion. The next law is not about attachment, affection, or desire. It is about inevitability. It is about the exact moment when loyalty breaks and what must be done when it does. Law 11 is the moment when the mask is removed and the truth of human loyalty stands exposed. If you must betray, betray quickly and never twice. Betrayal is not always malicious. Sometimes it is survival. Sometimes it is strategic correction. Sometimes it is the unavoidable cost of outgrowing those who no longer align with your trajectory. But betrayal, in any form, is an act of severance. It is the point at which a bond breaks, and one moves forward while the other is left behind. The mistake most men make is not the betrayal itself, but the hesitation before it. They linger, they second-guess, they wait for a better moment, a gentler explanation, a more dignified exit. And in that hesitation, the damage spreads. The longer betrayal is delayed, the more emotional energy accumulates, the more resentment grows, the more consequences multiply. Betrayal must be done like a blade drawn in one motion. No trembling, no apology, no explanation. The longer your hand shakes, the more power you lose. A slow betrayal is cruelty. It drags the other through uncertainty, suspicion, confusion. It poisons the air. A quick betrayal is clean, sharp, undeniable, final. The moment you know you must pivot, end the bond, cut the tie, remove the person from your life or plans, do it completely. You do not offer partial exits. You do not leave doors cracked open. You do not check back later to soothe the wound. You do not attempt to be the good person in the story. That is vanity disguised as compassion. There is no noble betrayal. There is only the kind that ends cleanly, and the kind that destroys both sides slowly. And above all, never betray twice. The moment you betray someone once, the dynamic between you is changed. Trust cannot be restored. Suspicion becomes permanent. The relationship becomes a negotiation of advantage, even if both pretend otherwise. If you betray once and then return, you create the conditions for your own downfall. The person you wronged will wait, they will watch, they will learn, they will either hate you quietly or admire you dangerously. But in both cases, they will strike when you are unprepared. To betray twice is to create an enemy with intimate knowledge of your patterns. That is suicide disguised as sentiment. The world is not kind to those who hesitate in decisive moments. The knife you do not use when necessary becomes the knife used against you later. The loyalty you extend past its expiration turns into leverage in the hands of someone who no longer fears you. Power requires the ability to cut ties with precision and without emotional residue. You walk away and you do not look back. You leave the silence behind to do the speaking for you. The silence tells them it was already over, long before the final moment. The silence tells them your decision was not emotional, it was inevitable. And once all ties are cut, once your presence, your meaning, your weight has been withdrawn, the world begins to watch for your return. Which brings us to Law 12, disappear before they can predict you. Predictability is death to influence. Once others can anticipate your moves, your motivations, your rhythms, they begin to position themselves accordingly. They defend, they adapt, they calculate. The advantage you once held dissolves. People fear what they cannot anticipate. They respect what they cannot access. They remember what leaves before routine forms around it. The moment your presence becomes constant, it becomes ordinary, and nothing powerful is ordinary. To disappear is not to retreat. It is to reset the psychological board. When you remove yourself, your voice, your availability, your presence, others are forced to confront what your absence means. They question themselves. They replay every interaction. They search for your intention. They wonder whether they misread your silence or underestimated your discipline. Absence is the most effective form of presence. It turns your image into mythology. It allows stories, rumors, assumptions to ferment. And assumptions are always more powerful than facts. Withdraw at the height of expectation, not after interest fades. Leave when they want more, not after they've had enough. The greatest commanders, lovers, strategists, kings, all understood the same truth. You must remain slightly beyond reach to remain unforgettable. Disappearance sharpens your silhouette. It resets your value. It re-establishes mystique. And mystique is the foundation of power. But disappearance requires the courage to detach, to remove yourself without seeking reassurance, to walk away without explaining the reason, to allow others to wonder instead of informing them. Your silence becomes the echo of your presence. Your absence becomes the reminder of your importance. The world cannot chase what does not linger, and the world only desires what is slipping away. So the final question of power is not how to be seen, but how to be missed. If you walked away today, who would feel the loss? Who would freeze? Who would panic? Who would wait? Who would break? And who would pretend they didn't? If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. Life is not guided by fairness, morality, or good intentions. It is governed by power, perception, and strategy. Those who fail to understand these laws are controlled by them. Those who learn them control everything. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to stop living blindly? Are you willing to see people not for who they present themselves to be, but for what they are? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, I see the laws. Let's see how many here are truly ready to live with their eyes open. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.